Hello everyone, welcome to our final project, All Life Deserves Respect. This is an upgrade version of our mini project. We still focus on animal protection, but we redesign our activities to better incorporate TFU framework, problem solving, and technology into the new version. Let's quickly go through the agenda. Basically, it includes four main parts. Essential information of the project will be introduced in the overview. Then comes two activities we designed based on TFU framework. Since we designed two activities to address a generative topic, we will introduce learning objective, performance, and assessment in each activity respectively. We will highlight how we design technology to help learning in the relevant section. Our project is designed for 7th grade students. The target is to help students to appreciate that all lives deserve respect. To explore this generative topic, students will answer one inquiry-based question, why all lives deserve respect, and one problem-based question, how do we respect all lives? In order to answer these two questions, students need relevant subject knowledge in biology and social studies. The generative topic is chosen because it is broad enough to connect two subject areas. At the same time, it is life-related enough to engage students and provoke interest. Okay, let's see how we're gonna carry out the project. Activity 1.
According to TFU framework, teachers should develop nested understanding goals to explore the topic. So we have two goals here. First, students will learn the facts of biological community. Second, a long-term goal would be students can appreciate the diversity of the planet and respect all living species in the world. Based on TFU framework, the performances of understanding should become progressively more complex. Therefore, first, we engage students by a fun outdoor activity. Go to Central Park to take a photo of the ugliest or least noticeable animal they can find, then post it on Twitter with hashtag like ugliest animal in Central Park. To encourage students find as many animals as possible, we have a rule that they can't upload photos that already posted by others. After previous outdoor activity, students might have enough interest and come to class with an open mind to know more hardcore knowledge for animal. With that, teacher will give a lecture around the topic of biological community and give some examples for students, like how starfish play an important role in rocky marine intertidal communities, or how sea otter keep tight connections with kelp forest food web. After the lecture, students should get a sense of how important it is to have different animals in a biological community. Then each student will conduct an online research about the biological community of the ugliest animal he or she posted on Twitter before. The design purpose is for students to explain the concepts they've learned in different scenarios. For this part, teachers will give instructions on how to do an effective research through 4 steps. The first step is plan. Before getting started, teacher will have students to articulate their research intention and verbalize what it is being looked for, as well as why that information is needed. So they don't search for some predetermined answers, but with the intention to find information that will help them solve the problem. The thought process here can help students clarify what they've already known and what unknown information they need to research. Take grizzly bear as an example. Students may already know bear is a kind of big mammal, but they still need more information about where grizzly bear live and what they eat. In order to get this information, strategy is needed. Teacher will then help students identify search terms by modeling the process of turning questions into effective search keywords. They can ask students questions like, what is ecological role they play in the ecosystem? And then teacher will point out that terms like grizzly bear ecological role could be developed into a search string used in Google search. If the previous strategy doesn't work to support their purpose, students can narrow the search by adding additional terms, expand the search by removing some of the terms, or simply scratch the original search and start over. After obtaining needed information, teacher will introduce some bookmarking websites like Zotero to help students organize and manage resources they found online. Last step, among information literacy skills, students also need to improve their skill to evaluate what information they can make use of with regard to relevance and credibility. Questions like, is the information on the site related to the problem? Who provided that problem? Why? At last, students should have the awareness to respect originality of the information and give credit to the authors. After the research, students will use a mind map to present the relationship of the ugliest animal with its surrounding animals and environment. Then they will create another mind map to illustrate how the disappearance of this ugly animal can affect the whole ecosystem. As a technology tool, mind map is useful for students to achieve the learning goal of Activity 1. To finish virtual demonstration in mind map, students will be boosted to figure out how different animals related to one another and think of the structure to put all those elements together. To deeper students' understanding, teachers will require students to explain those relationships in details and write it down in notes section on their mind map. In this process, students can learn about the facts of the biological community of the ugliest animals as they need to organize and explain. From practical perspective, mind map is good at demonstrating relationships of different elements. It quite fits in here. Then students can modify their map easily by changing components on mind map. For Activity 1, we will evaluate the mind map students made to assess learning performance. Teachers can use the following criteria to evaluate. First, the structure of the mind map, whether students show the relations between the animal, their surrounding environment, and other species. Second, whether students can illustrate their mind map in a clear and concise way while include all the information they need. Third, whether students can use the mind map to answer the question, what would happen if the ugliest animal unnaturally disappeared in its biological community?
After learning some facts about biodiversity in Activity 1, students have basic understanding of why all life deserves respect. Now, let's move on to the second inquiry question, how to respect all life. This is where we begin social study learning, and the Activity 2 is also based on TFU framework. In this activity, we will have students to make a tough decision on a real-world environmental case. We have two understanding goals. First is to improve students' decision-making skills. We designed 4 performances to scaffold students go through the decision-making process and hope in the end we can reach our second goal, that students can realize everyone's voice needs to be heard when we make decisions, though it's hard to satisfy all needs. This is how we show respect to others. Before class, students will get handouts about essential knowledge of Amazon rainforest. They can get rough understanding of both ecological and economic values of the Amazon rainforest. In class, teacher will introduce the construction of Amazon Road case and explain the meaning of building Pucallpa Crisolio do Sul Road is to link South America's most remote and isolated economies through a new transportation, energy, and telecommunication project. However, road building may also lead to conflict and tension among communities that favor developing the rural economies of the Amazon basin and those who favor preserving its forested areas and the diversity of life. With the help of teacher, students will identify 6 stakeholders who will be involved or affected in road building project. After class, students are divided into 6 groups and assigned with one stakeholder, finding out their needs for rainforest and how they will be affected by building this road through research. When research is done, students are required to fill the stakeholder table worksheet and decide whether they support or oppose the road building from this one stakeholder perspective. Back to class, each group role-play the stakeholder, share their decision with the rest of the class, and the reason why they make that decision. As groups are sharing, the audience groups can fill out the rest of their stakeholder table worksheet, record other stakeholders' needs. After all groups have presented, students will have class discussion about the similarities and differences among the various stakeholder statements. Then, 6 stakeholder groups will be regrouped into 3 final decision groups. Each new final decision group has 6 students representing different stakeholders. Every group is required to make a final decision whether to build the road or not from sustainable development perspective and take all stakeholders' interests and needs into consideration. After negotiation and compromise, each group needs to fill out a final decision statement, share their decision with the rest of the class. Stakeholder table worksheet and decision statement are the principal method for teachers to assess the learning outcomes of students. The sequence of 3 performances in our project makes it easy to evaluate the learning outcome naturally. Without effective research, students would fail to fully understand the interests of each stakeholder on road construction, thus may not be able to fill the stakeholder table in detail. Without listening to other stakeholders' perspective and actively involving in discussion, they cannot negotiate and may compromise to finish their final decision statement. In addition to teachers' ongoing assessment, peer assessment also applies here. Since students play different roles, they need to negotiate with each other in order to agree on one final decision. During this process, students are able to assess their peers' argument behind opinions, such as whether the reasoning is convincible enough to persuade others. The 4 steps to reach a final decision on road building are intentionally designed to create a reflective learning community for students. First, students are first to work in group representing one stakeholder, then to work in group consisting 6 stakeholders, which let them learning for understanding the topic through comparing and combining the alternative ideas. Second, the purpose of picking one student from each stakeholder group to form a new one is to push students to negotiate and compromise different needs. It's true that the negotiating process itself might be struggling, but for students, they not only learn how to make decisions in real-life situations, but indeed improve their critical thinking skills since they need to have stronger enough argument to convince others. Last, through the final decision-making process, only if students gain a more in-depth understanding of the topic would they be able to give a reasonable compensation for the stakeholder who might be unhappy because of this decision. Okay, thank you for watching.